one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tom, would you take roll, please?
I will. Chairperson Fox?
Here.
Vice Chairperson Mitchell?
Here.
Secretary Murphy is present. Trustee McMullen?
Here.
Commissioner Grissom?
Here.
Commissioner Mayer?
Here.
And Commissioner Ekman.
Here. All right, thank you very much. Item 4, approval of our agenda.
So moved.
Support. A motion to approve from McMullen, second from Mitchell. All those in, any changes? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up are approval of meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve our meeting minutes from April 10th, 2025.
Support.
We have a motion from Grissom, second from Ekman. Any changes to those minutes? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Call to the public. Not tonight. Okay. Move to item 7. We have 7A, which is a site plan application number 2501, Redwood Living Plan Development, Phase 2. We are in the final stage of our PD process. Do you want to come on up? And we'll turn the meeting over to our planning director, and if you have anything to add, and then we'll go through that staff review letter that they provided us here this evening. So, Troy, the meeting is yours.
All right. Thank you. Let me start off and try to explain where this is located. This is a zoning map of Heartland Township with US 23 being north and south and M59 being east and west. And from that intersection, you would go eastward down M59 to where this is actually where Cundy Road and M59 intersect. And then Heartland Glen Phase 1 is in this location. I'm sorry, not Heartland Glen. Redwood Phase 1 is in this location. Then Redwood Phase 2 is just to the west of that. So it's going to be back in here. And this is Redwood Phase 2. This is all Heartland Glen property, but this is Redwood Phase 2. So as you mentioned, this is a planned development. And we're kind of in the final stages. So this is a site plan. Unfortunately, it does not show, some of the roads. So just to kind of get your bearings straight, M59 would be, and Cundy would actually be to the north. This is Redwood Phase 1. And then kind of beyond what you can see would be the Heartland Glen Road, which would be a north and south. So this is the area that we're looking at for Phase 2. The plan development process is essentially a 3-step process. It starts off as a conceptual review, which is, it goes to the Planning Commission. No formal decision is made. Comments are provided. It moves on to the Township Board. Very similar process. No formal decision. Comments are provided. If the project proceeds, such as this one has, the next step is a preliminary review. The site plan is significantly more detailed. There's a public hearing, and the Planning Commission makes a recommendation, which has happened in this case. It then proceeds to the Township Board. The Township Board reviews the plan, which has also happened, and the Township Board approves the site plan. And then the final phase is the final PD, which is the phase we're in. And in this case, we have the plan development agreement, which is in your packet. And we actually have a slightly amended site plan, which can happen on these PDs. It isn't common, but in this case on the site plan, what they are amending is when they came originally as part of the preliminary review, they proposed some of the garages were 4 feet longer. And I can't remember the exact garages they showed at that time, but what they want to do is they're now, apparently these must be popular because they have several buildings, double H, which is here, double J, which this one, double J, double M, which is this one, double P, which is this one, double R, which is over here, double U, which is two U's, not double, never mind. This is double U over here, this is double W over here, triple B, which is over here, triple H, which is over here now, and then triple J over here. So, and I can't remember, was triple L already one of those that was for, there was a couple of them that were already shown that, but now they want to have 50 of the units here would have the extended garages as shown there. Also shown on here, they do have a berm back here. This was discussed at the time, at the preliminary review. At that time, they didn't have the details of it, and the planning commission said that can be handled during the construction phase, but this is more or less for your information to show you that this is the direction they're going. They're also doing some work on a storm detention basin that's slightly different than at the time you've seen. And just quick recap, I kind of omitted, this is 130 units. Phase 1 is 148 units. These are all apartment units that are rented. I believe phase 1 is virtually filled out. My discussions with them is that went very well for them. So that's an overview of the process. It's an overview of the project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Troy. Anything you want to add?
Troy covered it well.
Okay.
We did add those extended garage units, which is essentially just adding 4 feet to each garage to lengthen it, give you more storage. You have a pickup truck. Yeah, it's a popular unit. We're seeing just through Redwood's portfolio, they're adding more and more of these. And then as Troy mentioned, a lot of these berms came from, as we went through more detailed engineering, we were able to dial down the size, location, shape. So that's about it.
All right, great. So let's take a look at this staff review letter we have dated April 17th. I'll start on page 5. So there's an opportunity for those to comment. At the bottom, towards the bottom of the page, 75-80% down, minor modifications to the overall plan. So they've changed a few with the extended garages, as Troy mentioned. Any comments on that? Everybody good with it?
On the next page, I would have a comment.
You can.
Okay, so if we go to page 6, the question would be is that just underneath the extended garages where they're called out by letter, we still have 25 feet from the face of the garage to the street?
Correct.
Or okay, so the whole unit must have bumped back a little, or we had more than 25?
Basically, we moved the building 4 feet away from the road.
All right, yeah. That was it, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on that? And then
So that essentially means that there's still room for parking 4 vehicles at every unit, right?
Correct.
2 in the garage and 2 up. Yeah.
Correct.
And then, of course, the mentioning of the berms. Any questions or comments? I know in the past you brought those up.
Yeah, I had questions the last time around just because they didn't indicate the height.
Okay.
I just had it was an open-ended issue, so I didn't know if this was going to be an obnoxious hill. But now I see the contour lines are 5 lines or so, so it's 5-6 feet tall.
Right.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect. Any other questions on any of that? All right, on page 6, down there, I don't know, 60% of the way, legal documents and submittals, kind of blend it right in there with the next one, Redwood Living Plan Development Agreement. Troy, do you want to just touch base on all of that for us?
So they're using their plan development agreement that they did in Phase 1 as a template and just modifying what needs to be modified to reflect Phase 2. They did send it to our attorney. Our attorney did have some comments. Their attorneys kind of looked at it, and I think for the most part, all the real technical details have been worked out. We're just in the process of getting the exhibits, of which this plan would be one of the exhibits, assuming this gets approved.
Okay. Questions on any of that? All right, well, let's move on over to page 7, up at the top, permitted uses within the agreement. It's pretty much going to be rental units and minimum driveway sizes. Everything that the plan is talked about in the permitted uses section, and then the prohibited uses. Try to touch on that, so basically they can have rentals and then,
So basically, what you're permitting is going to be permitted, and then unless the planning commission determines there's a similar use, they essentially can't do anything else with the property unless the planning commission has determined it's similar and would be permitted.
okay. Questions on that? All right, well, you touched on them, Troy, but maybe exhibits and final plan, access easement, all those.
Yeah, there's if you recall, there's a drive that is somewhat centrally located that would extend to the south. This would provide future connection. We don't know what that connection is. So there's an easement here we're working on, and then, of course, they tie in to the Redwood Phase 1. Although it is Redwood, and although it is the same company, it's a slightly different LLC. So from our standpoint, we tend to look at it as if that could be sold off differently. So we try to get all this stuff secured for easement purposes, if that makes sense.
Okay. Any questions on that? Sure.
I have a question
Yeah.
that ties into the cover page, item number 5. The page is labeled 14 at the bottom right, item 5. there.
Cover page of the review letter?
Yeah.
Okay, yep, got it.
It doesn't have a page number on the top.
You're good.
Okay, so number 5, as part of the final plan review, the applicant and/or any future owner shall agree to not interfere or object to any future roadway and/or pedestrian connections to the east. Is this the same road we're talking about?
Yeah, that's probably.
That should be.
That should be south.
Should be south.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably just put south and east there, because the Redwood Phase 1 is to the east and then to the south.
Okay.
So where, if I can, where Walnut Drive ends, it terminates, how will that be treated? Will there be an abutment, a curb, will there be sign?
Well, Redwood requested, if you remember, we had kind of a lengthy discussion about could Redwood put a sign there. So there'll be a sign, and it'll, I don't know that there'll be an abutment. It's fairly common that the curb, well, this is all concrete, so it'll probably just end. They'll probably do some sort of erosion control measures, maybe some gravel, so it doesn't just run off there and erode the dirt, so to speak. But we'll have some sort of measures there at the end, and then we'll wait until there's development, physically connect. But in the interim, it'll be kind of an end. There'll probably be a sign that just says dead end or stop here or something to that effect. Hopefully people wouldn't continue to drive right through, but does that
Well, you
answer
may,
your question?
yeah, and you may be able to offer.
So typically at dead-end roads, Redwood will install a huge barrier that's got all the traffic, so you don't just drive off into the abyss. So there will be a barrier until something's there, just to protect people, so people don't drive off the edge.
And that's what you're used to doing in other developments?
Yes, yep.
Like a guardrail type of thing?
It's like a 6-foot-tall fence that's got all the traffic tape, so if a car's going, it'll be reflective.
Okay.
Good.
Yep.
Any other questions on that? Okay. Troy, you want at the bottom of the page, rezoning?
So as
Magnetic.
part, I didn't mention, as part of the process, when the final PD actually gets to the township board, and assuming the township board were to approve it, the property actually then becomes rezoned to planned development. And this property is currently HDR, high-density residential, and a portion of it is CA, conservation agricultural. So it would be rezoned from its current zoning to planned development, and it would be reflected as such on the zoning map.
Okay, any questions on that? All right, let's move on over to page 8. We got no more DPW comments. Engineers got a letter out there on March 24th, no more from the fire authority. You guys all good with the engineer's letter? Everybody good? You're good? You're good?
Good.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant or Troy? All right, if you're so inclined, there is a motion on the top of page 1.
I move to recommend approval of site plan PD number 25-001, final plan for Redwood Living Plan Development Phase 2, as outlined in the staff memorandum dated April 17th, 2025.
Support?
Thank you.
Support.
Okay, yep, okay. So we have a motion to recommend approval from Commissioner Grissom, seconded from Commissioner Ekman. Any further discussion?
Do we have to make note of the correction on
Oh,
5?
yeah, that always helps. Just make note of that on number 5, the south and east.
Are you?
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
You okay with it? That'll be good. Are you okay? Everybody good?
Good.
We're good. Make that easy.
Good?
We're good.
Okay.
All right, any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Troy, just of interest, at the detention pond, what is that oversized springboard? It looks like a,
Spillway.
is it a spillway? Okay. Thank you.
I thought it was a slide.
That was a diving board?
Community benefits.
There you go.
All right.
All right, item B, site plan application 25006, request to amend the previously approved site plans for a mini storage warehouse. Come on up, Mr. Beauchamp. How are you? Good, good. We'll do the same thing again. Why don't we hand the meeting over to Troy? Jared, you at that point can add anything you'd like, and then we'll take a look at that letter. All right, perfect. Troy?
So the property that we're going to be looking at here, if I go back to this main intersection of US 23 and M59, is actually going to be just slightly west on M59 and then south on old US 23. And as I'm looking at this, I'm trying to decipher which one of the, it's right in this area. I'm not sure if it's the northern parcel or the southern parcel from this map, but it's going to be in this general area, about 20 acres zone light industrial. And I apologize, I couldn't recall which one. So this is an amendment to a site plan. Mr. Beauchamp had come before the Planning Commission and received a applied for a special use permit and had been recommended approval of that special use permit, and then also that includes a site plan, and the Planning Commission had approved the site plan. That also went on to the Township Board, and the Township Board approved the special use permit. And actually, enough time passed that the applicant sought a time extension. The way our ordinance works is that site plan is valid for 2 years, but can be granted an extension of 1 year by the director upon 2 elements existing. One, there's been no change in the site plan, and 2, there's been no change to any ordinances that would be material to the site plan. Both of those elements existed, and an extension was granted. So now the applicant is requesting to modify the site plan. So let me pull up. This is the plan that was approved, and here is old US 23. This would be US 23 over here. And this site plan has essentially its access point off of old 23, and as you came on in, there was a storage building here. I'll call it a climate-controlled storage building, single story with an office. So all of these little units inside here, you go into the building and there's a series of hallways, and then you have a storage unit inside of there. There's really no exterior visibility of garages. The rest of these buildings are your typical mini storage type buildings. They have garage doors on them. So then these buildings would be those mini storage ones. These buildings were covered kind of like a carport, where if you had a camper, you would rent a spot and you'd leave your camper. It would be out, it'd be outdoors, but there would be a canopy over it for these buildings. And then this area here was to be just completely outdoors, not covered, and this is totally outdoor storage. So this was the proposed site plan at that time that was approved, and what the applicant is doing is he's proposing to modify it to this. So this building would remain somewhat similar. This building over here now would be more similar to that first building that I told you, where all of the units are inside of the building. It's kind of that climate control type of a building. These buildings here are all your mini storage type or garage buildings. The covered canopy type buildings are all gone, and the gravel or millings outdoor storage area has been reduced here to this area. So this is a modification of that site plan, and the applicant is here seeking to do that, needs Planning Commission approval to do that. I think that's a general good overview of the project, so I'll be available to answer any questions.
All right. Anything you want to add, Jared?
I think Troy did a pretty good, just what we ended up doing, and the reason for the changes that we're proposing. I started working with Track, either another major manufacturer of storage facilities, and Track did a site evaluation, also did a local study, because one of his questions is why are we just going to do open canopies? So after several meetings with him, he convinced me to take basically those three larger canopy. Sorry.
Oh, we should have told you that. Sorry about that. It's just like a small intimate group here.
Like it's coming out of the back room. So after talking with Tracty, they had suggested, they did a study, they're like, we would suggest you closing those off so they're not open to the elements being in the Michigan weather. It's not that the other ones wouldn't rent, they would rent, but they felt that these were a better option. I'm not sure, maybe it's just more profit for them, but bottom line, they were a good salesperson. And so what we did is we basically took those two larger north buildings, split them up into two. We got rid of the third canopy building, and by doing this, we lost some storage space, but we increased the quality of it. He refers to it as this is going to be a grade A premier Tracty development. And with general RV and some of the other things that they pointed out, there's a lot of RVs in the general area that they don't want to just be parked underneath the canopy. And so, and then we thought, that'd probably be an easy sell to the township because now you don't have open canopies looking at RVs and stuff like that. So that's how we came to that. Also, the other part of their study was they felt that in a general Heartland area, there's not very much temperature controlled. So that's why we added the very southeast building and converted that to a temperature controlled building. So that's what they had felt was maybe a better mix. And in turn, it also, which we felt would be something appealing to the township, reduced the outdoor parking storage area as well. So everything else is the same. The aesthetics are the same. And one last thing, but I know we did colors. I wasn't able to get samples, but I'll just verbally let you know, and I know we got to handle that at a different meeting from what Troy had said. But really the only thing that's even changed on the colors, we had red garage doors and we're going to black garage doors. So, which again will be, a better looking, product is what we feel. So, but that's about it.
Perfect. If you guys are ready, we'll take a look at this staff review letter. Troy covered all the introduction stuff, so we get to start on page 5. And at the end, you wish to cover something prior, then we will go back. But at the top, we see site plan review applicable standards. That would be packet page 48. And we see up at the top there, building setbacks, we're still in compliance on all of those. And in our lot coverage area, 75% maximum, they're at 28.9%, so they're in meeting the requirement there. Troy, do you want to touch on this off-street parking thing real quick?
So this is, the planning commission, I wouldn't say wrestled with it, but it had this issue come up at the initial time. So each of these units is supposed to have like a parking space, and at that time, the planning commission felt, well, that seems kind of trivial. Most people just pull up to their unit and kind of park maybe sideways to it, unload or load or whatever they have to do, and then they're out of there. So at that time, when it came back in when it first came in 22, they decided this was fine, but because we're modifying it and we've got some new ones, that same issue is coming up here on would the planning commission be okay without all of those mini storage ones having separate parking spaces?
Everybody good with that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I think we've probably all used them.
Yeah.
Next, landscape and screening. Troy, you want to touch on, they've added a few items there.
Yeah, again, we're not doing the full landscape review. We're just kind of going to be talking about the changes. And so this is what we're looking at. The applicant has got some evergreen trees here on the north side of this building, and then some evergreen trees here on the north side of this building to help block visibility, and you can see the rest of the landscape there. They're keeping it pretty much as it was approved, but these areas here got affected a little bit. So,
Okay. Any comments on that?
When we approved it before, you mentioned, just to keep it simple for you, that median when you drive in where you have your sign,
Yeah,
there's not a requirement to put plantings per se. You could just do lawn and the trees.
yeah.
And that would be probably a lot easier and look a little nicer versus trying to weed and whatever. It's just an option for you, but if you do that, we just want to make sure you maintain it while it's
Yeah.
your front door. It's your call.
Yeah, and actually, I think, and I'm just noticing that, I'm glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
because we actually chose to eliminate that entrance,
Oh,
because once we got the grade in there and stuff, one of my concerns is you've got a decline there, so, it's going to be salted quite a bit. It's going to have to be because, and then you're going out to a major road, so my biggest concern was being in a salt truck for as many years as I was,
Sure.
it's going to get loaded down with salt, everything's going to die in there anyways. So we eliminated it, but I apologize, I do notice that it wasn't, my
Yeah, it's on-
team didn't get rid of it.
right. I think it's on your grading, it's on your plans.
Yeah,
And then the other comment was about putting a tree in that one island in front of your storage building that I think you might have. I know later there's a question if it's a well or what it is in that little island there, and that's in front of Building 13.
Yeah,
We don't need to put any landscape there. Do you have a well there? Is that what?
yeah, that's where the well's going to be. Yep, the old one's getting eliminated, and that's where the new well's going to
Got
go.
it.
Yep, correct.
I think that was it that I know about.
Okay, anybody else have comments? All right, lighting. Looks like we're all pretty good, just got to get some designation. I'm flipping over to page 6. We need some height of light poles when we get down to the construction plans. Is there really any questions on lighting? Everybody good with that? Architecture comments, Troy, you kind of touched on them there, but do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so we had a slight conflict between the architecture plans and the floor plans. So I'm going to go back to the site plan here. So let's go to this one. So the goal of when the Planning Commission originally heard this, and I'll show you the elevations later, but just keep in mind that the elevation that faces Old 23 here, these were all kind of shown as a brick. It's a very well dressed up facade here. And then the same is true on these elevations here. So the goal was to dress up these, and then on these storage buildings, it's a lot of garage doors, and there's kind of a lot of metal siding. And then on the interiors of these, if they wanted to have at the ends of these, if there were garage doors at the butt ends of them, that would be fine. But no garage doors on these end units here. They should all be that they're brick that they had shown. So I'm going to scroll down here to the elevations. So this is an example of one of the buildings, and you can see how their facade looks with that brick. And then so these are the smaller ones that depict how they're doing that. But I'll get to the floor plan. And this would be one of those mini storage buildings, and you can see the floor plan showed end units that you would come into here, and then they're on both sides. So that created some concerns of, well, you've got to modify your plans because that's not what was shown. Your floor plan is in conflict with your building elevations. So the applicant has a letter in the attachment saying he will modify the floor plan. He will honor what he said he would and have the ends. So these buildings would be modified so there's no doors on either the US 23 side or the old US 23 side. Does that make sense, or is it more confusing?
Yep, and he can do whatever he wants on the interior ends.
Yeah, that was what the Planning
doors,
Commission
not-
allowed
yeah.
the last time, so.
Yeah. Sounds good,
Yeah, and this was just an error on Track D's side. They
Yeah,
just
that's
overlooked
fine.
it.
but,
There was never any anticipation to have garage
but
doors.
that's your intent.
Yep, no garage doors.
Any questions on any of that? Everybody good? I'm on page 8, because I think Troy kind of hit all of the elevation stuff there. Talked about the floor plans. Page 8, approval procedure, we're making the final decision here. Other requirements, none. We've got a DPW review letter, April 14. We've got a engineer letter, February 24th, and a Deerfield Fire Authority letter of March 24th. Probably, are you good with all those?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions? Anybody have any comments for him?
I know they brought up a couple times about the curb, and like last time you were looking into a rolled curb. Did that get figured out so that you meet the requirement?
Yeah, we ended up agreeing that it was fine just having, because the way the site's built,
Okay.
it all slopes to the pond.
Yeah.
So there's really no curbing other than, just kind of on the asphalt. it'll kind of be rolled up.
The asphalt, no concrete.
Correct, correct.
Okay. And the engineer's good with that?
Yeah.
He's telling you to know
Yeah,
all that?
that's everything, yep. And there was no changes from that, same thing as what was approved before.
And then there's a permit that you need because you're going to drain into the wetland? Is that part of it too, an Eagle permit?
You know what, I can't speak to that. I know that all that has been handled, but I don't want to speak
Okay.
outside
Yeah.
of my pay grade.
Okay,
Yeah.
yep. Just going to follow with the letter.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Yeah, but I was assured all that was taken care of.
Okay.
So it's been a difficult site to
Yeah.
develop.
Sure. It's just, it's a long.
So I've gotten to know everybody, and everybody that's been out there has been, nope, everything looks good. And
Okay.
So,
Sounds good.
I
Yes, sir.
had a question. Troy, were you done, Sue? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying there's a lot. There's just a lot of little things in these letters, and that's
Yeah.
a long one for you, so I
Yeah.
just checking.
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Troy, can you go to the site layout
Yeah.
where we just kind of started, if you don't mind?
Yep. Okay.
So building 6 and building 13, was there a change to 6? You said it's similar to what it was from the prior?
So 6, okay. I believe that the north elevation of, I think, I don't have a floor plan anymore of 6. The prior plan, he's renumbered them. So this gets a little bit confusing. So on the old plan, zooming in, this was building 3. So on the new plan, this is building 6. So on the old plan, it's building 3. And you can see it's all, there's no outdoor access on this. But I don't have a floor plan of this, so I don't know if there's any changes on the inside or anything.
Okay,
to that.
no problem. I just thought you said it was similar to what it was before. It's a foot difference in either dimension, interestingly, but 166 to 165 and 86 to 85. Are both of these, is 6 and 13 climate controlled?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
both of them, yeah.
And I can help out with that. Building 6, there's no changes other than that office will not be used as a primary office. Obviously, that'll be within that office area on both buildings. You've got your mechanicals area for your heating and cooling. And generally, you'll have some supplies and stuff like that. So there still will be, for the lack of a better description, a office, but that will not be the main office. The main office will be in number 13.
In 13?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Jim, did you have?
Yeah, Mr. Beauchamp, have you had any conversations with our fire marshal, John DeHanke, as far as the turning radius goes and the comments in his write-up? I understand that the turning radiuses were done with a 40-foot truck instead of a 50, but he mentions that if you use the 40, then a siren-activated entry gate for emergency vehicles needs to be
Correct.
installed. Have
Correct.
you had any conversations with him on that?
Yeah, that's what, actually, we didn't change anything as far as the turning radiuses from the first one, but that was something that came up during this one. But what he ended up doing, I think we tweaked a few things, the engineers did, but to make it to more of what he wanted to see. And then also he said, as long as you put in the siren from there, I'm fine with that as well. So we agreed upon the siren as well, and we met everything.
Just curious, how does the addition of the siren improve the turning radius?
I have no clue. I have no clue. But I know from the original site plan, we changed a few things around that were more in what he wanted to see than what the original approved site plan was. So we moved on both sides. And I can't tell you how the siren helps or doesn't help.
And just a quick look, I didn't see a site drawing showing those turning radiuses in this packet. Maybe I missed it.
I don't have those.
I know in some emails I had seen it, but
Yeah, I think the only concern, and I don't want to speak too much for John, is building number 6 at that one far front corner. I want to say that was his only main area of interest, concern, whatever word you want to use. But after we tweaked everything, I talked to him multiple times, and
When I had looked at it on the site drawing that showed the radius of the 40-foot truck, my concern was on the southeast corner, building 12. Just in order to make a loop around this site with a truck. If Mr. DeHankey's, Fire Marshal DeHankey's good with it, then I'm
Yeah.
good with it.
yeah, again,
I just wasn't clear on how a siren-activated entry gate, it allows you to go from a 50-foot truck to a 40.
yeah, I'm not sure what the, how that related.
Okay,
I know it was an ask, and I said, yep, if that's what satisfies you, I'll do it.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for Mr. Beauchamp? All right, if you are so inclined, on page 1 of this staff memorandum, you will find a motion.
I'll move to approve site plan application 25-006, a request to amend previously approved plans for a mini warehouse establishment approved under site plan with special land use application 22-015 as outlined in the staff memorandum dated April 17, 2025.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Ekman, second from Commissioner Grissom. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Congratulations, thank you.
Appreciate it.
So when are you going to open?
My wife says if I keep playing in the dirt, she's going to choke me.
Okay, sooner than later.
We're just about done. The site's just about balanced, and yeah, that was a lot of work out there, to say the least.
Yeah, looks a little different today. Yeah.
Yeah, we're almost there.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate everyone's time.
Yes, thank you very much. Public has not arrived and/or departed yet, so we will move on to item 9. Planners report. Looks like Troy's got something big enough that he needed to make a...
Yeah, so we are in the process of updating zoning map and future land use maps, and with the help of Spalding DeDecker. And I wanted to get input from you on these changes. So we're not going to be discussing actual changes of zoning. We're going to be looking at just kind of format and do you like this or do you like that, but we're not actually going to be changing any of the zoning here. So this is our current zoning map, and this is how this looks. And here is a proposal, and one of the things you'll notice is there's a tilt to it, and I guess that has to do with true north. And the GIS, Geographic Information System map, that's how that map is actually set up. So it has this tilt to it. This was a problem with some of the staff. We looked at some other township zoning ordinances or zoning maps that are also tilted. And one of the things some of those townships did was to zoom out farther to show more around the border beyond our township limits. And it's in those townships, it seemed to soften that tilt. So here's an example of that. They kind of showed, I don't know if they zoomed out, but it still has that tilt to it. And also in this one, it's showing the lakes a little bit more versus this one. So I wanted to get your ideas. What do you like? Do you like something more like this where you can see these little streams and creeks and rivers, or do you kind of prefer more this without as if there's nothing beyond the boundaries? We have a wall up and there's nothing beyond Heartland Township. Here's the current one. Here's option A. Pretend you're at the eye doctor. Is this better, or is this better. So I wanted to get your input on those things. I've sent you guys these maps, and then also for the future land use map, here is the future land use map currently. This is what we have. Here is option 1, like this, and then here's option 2, again showing more the water features, I'll call it, and then it extends beyond the township limit. So I wanted you to see all these, and I want you to be part of any, if you have concerns, questions, this is kind of your opportunity to comment on that and to see the differences so you can see some of the other things. And I don't really have a long staff report, so that's basically it, and then it's just a matter of telling me what you like.
So I could start out by saying I think that having the water features is pleasing. I mean, it makes the map look more complete to know these are where water features flow. I think that maybe should have been there anyways. Whether it goes beyond the zone of Heartland, I guess, is another question. But can we go back to the beginning? What is the purpose of changing the angle of this on the?
Okay, so all of these parcels are built into what's called a GIS system. So the whole township has a GIS map. It's used for assessing, it's used for engineering, it's used for public works. We are just one part of that, zoning and future land use. So that whole GIS map shows all of the parcel boundaries on here and is used for many other purposes. And when you bring up the GIS map, you could actually pull up a parcel and it would tell you all sorts of information on that property. And that is designed off of what you call a true north, and they have a north arrow here pointing this way, so that's how that, so what they must have done is altered this so it's not quite true north. They must have just said, to heck with it, nobody cares about true north, let's just tilt it over like that.
So my eye is actually catching, in this zoning map you have up now, that the true north of the upper right corner, that's rotated the equivalent angle here. See how that's not straight up and down? In the other, there's another map, right? Keep going. I'll go to the previous.
This one?
And there's.
Or the future land use? You want this one?
Yeah, see how that angle, that's also twisted. So that throws, it looks funny to see it on an angle. Could we just go back to, if we can't go back to just rotating the north arrow.
I'll rotate the whole earth if that helps.
So that's all I would have to say. Is it looked fine before. Does it work? I'm sure, but yeah.
Yeah, that threw off, my staff's like, why is it tilted like that? And I tried to wrestle with the
You didn't get it
engineers.
down on the copier quite right.
Right.
Exactly.
They were sitting on it. Yeah, I say rotate
Forever will be that way.
North arrow.
I agree with the water. I do like seeing the water there. I don't see the point of having it in the next the next township. I just, to me, it'd be, just makes it look messier to me. I don't know.
You prefer this, but just call it out a little more, like the.
Yeah, call it out with the rivers,
like
because those
these
are really
things
handy when you're looking
Just
at
take
property.
that one, yeah.
A guy was showing me his property the other day on one of these maps, and I'm like, yeah, I couldn't picture where a creek was, and so it kind of would be kind of nice. It's definitely helpful, but I don't see the point of having these, blobs of ink that look like somebody made a mistake out there and spilled ink or something.
Yeah.
And I also think not bothering with true north is fine. Well, actually, like Tom pointed out, it truly is correct, the other version. It's just that probably people aren't going to notice. I didn't ever notice that. I would not have noticed that the north was off that little bit to be accurate. So both of them are accurate. It's just this is not as pleasing.
Well, I haven't scientifically measured them to say. Just,
It's 1.5. It's 1.5 degrees.
Yeah.
I've seen on maps, just in this situation, where you'll have two north arrows. One says true north, and then it shows what this map's doing. We could investigate that and see if that just creates confusion, but, for those people that really need to know, it might be a thing to do.
If they had some sort of icon,
Yeah.
even on a single icon, that had
right.
a line
Just-
going both
yeah.
ways or something, so you could see what was going on.
I could see if I could find an example, but I remember seeing that before and going, oh, okay. Also, on these new maps, what I like is the scale, the bar scale, goes from, the current one is to 0.8 miles. The new scales go to 1 mile. And I think that's super helpful when you try to kind of figure out how big things are, to have this
Yeah,
scale go to
even
1
number.
mile.
Who cares about .8, right?
Right?
Don't
So
we
I think
deal with
that's a
gold first?
better deal. I also like the color change, because right now, some of the colors of our zoning is the same color almost as the water bodies.
Here.
And these improvements, they've got the water being a lot darker, so you're not like, you know, and I think that's a good move too.
Those are good points, too.
Yeah, just to add on to Sue's comment, on the new zoning map here, the colors are more vivid, because I had trouble determining the settlement
Yeah.
residential versus suburban residential. I mean, the colors kind of flow together, so you had to be careful.
Good point.
This is more vibrant.
How do you feel about like the road names? So we're trying to call out, not every road name, but you'll see like here's Dunham. So does that stand out enough? Let's look at some of the other options here. This one doesn't have as much of a white block around it. Do you think it helps to have the white block, or is it okay like this? Over here, it didn't have a white block, but I don't, does that stand, what they did here on road names compared to this, compared to this?
I think this is like you're at the eye doctor right now, right? This one I think is more pleasing, and do some illustrating. I think they have a different background color, makes the letters stand out, doesn't get lost in it. And you might increase the font a little bit. You might make them a little bit bigger if it doesn't get into, you know, clouding your description. But these are not engineering drawings, so this is just a visual thing as far as I'm concerned, and you may have more to say about that. But so why the true north versus the north? The surveyors really knows where north is.
I'm in favor of just squaring it up. It looks like we didn't hire a very professional printer.
Simply stated.
I'm with you. I think it just looks better squared to the paper.
Cattywampus,
Yeah.
it looks like it's an
You
arrow.
like this? This
Yeah.
looks,
Yeah.
Just stick it like that on the page, but put the other colors on.
With more vibrant colors.
But that may interfere with your .8, because if they, let's see, how is that? If they're going to go kittywampus with it, you're going to actually have a smaller image, aren't you? That's right, that's how you got to the 1.
well, I didn't do any of this, so I don't have any.
If you
But
turn it on,
they're
you
constraining to a certain
It'll-
size page of paper, I'm sure, and so the
should
.8,
probably table this.
they were able to go to 1
I said
because they
send it
actually
to the,
shrunk it in order to
committee.
turn it. If you
Yeah.
don't shrink it, I guess you can still keep it shrunk, it just will be, that's right, you just have a bigger margin on the top and the bottom. Yeah.
I mean, like the ordinance review committee take this on? Is that what you're thinking?
You want this to go to ordinance review committee?
No,
We do not.
no, they're busy.
Any thoughts down there?
So are these
Summary
comments,
comment.
would you say your comments echo for the future land use as well? We didn't,
Yeah.
it's kind of the same application here, but, okay. So what I'm hearing from you is, I'll start with this one, is you like the blues and the streams and the water feature shown. No need to go beyond the limitations of our township. You like how the roads are highlighted here. You're in love with this true north tilt. No, I'm just being sarcastic, but you want to somehow, I've got to talk with them. What does it take to tilt this so it's straight, and then we just adjust the north arrow, or add
Turn the-
the north and true north arrow there. And then possibly increase the font size of some of the roads here.
I mean, I strain when I look at it, so if anyone else is, maybe that's the
Well,
sign.
this, yeah, and typically, you know, we have some bigger ones, and I don't know, how does this one look? Does that, can you read that one?
No, I think the white background is an improvement.
You think the white background?
Yeah, but then the more vibrant colors, Mike's word actually, it pops out more.
Yeah.
This one, the font does look bigger, but I think that might be because the whole print is bigger, doing the 0.8 miles, because they didn't do
Yeah.
the turning sideways. So that, I mean, that was probably, that might be a 10% difference in size.
Yeah.
They look, the fonts look smaller to me there. And also, they did not use all caps where they did the first time, all caps. It almost seems bolder in all caps.
Huh, that's a good point.
You do like all caps for road names and?
I do think it helps when you're
Yeah.
doing with that small of a font.
We could issue a magnifying glass with it.
Yeah.
Those are good comments. And then they did not use all caps on the lakes. The lakes, again, are not all caps. We did run into a slight problem. I think this, so this lake is Bitten Lake, and down here it's
Blaine.
Blaine. I'm zooming it. So it has a name here. Do you see this? And this is Wallace Lake. And then on the old map, it's, no, it is Blaine.
Blaine or Wallace?
Blaine Wallace. I'm zooming in just a little bit if it helps to kind of see some of this stuff.
So zooming in makes it larger. There's a sign that the larger font would be better.
I didn't bring my glasses.
All right.
Look at it.
Anything else that you see that, these section numbers? We don't talk too much about section numbers, but, they were like this in the original one. Here they are in this version, and then here they are in this version here.
Keeps
Do you-
getting better.
Have I ever explained what these section numbers, I mean, have you guys done, did you guys go over any of that stuff in planning, any stuff like that? Is that,
No, that's assessing.
Or just square miles.
it applies to assessing too, it's
6
not
square
just,
miles in the township.
when they surveyed the whole country, not the whole, the eastern part they didn't, they literally sent surveyors out, and so when you say township, you think of Heartland Township, but really it goes back, a township was this square, 6 miles by 6 miles, and they numbered them with 36 sections in a kind of a zigzagging way all the way down till you get to section 36 here. So in the western part of the state, so Ohio, would be kind of a line. You get into Pennsylvania, it's too old, it doesn't have that. So you get to Ohio, to the west coast, the whole country's laid out with this whole surveying system. So property is described, and each of these townships are given a number on a range and a median. And you describe property this way essentially by saying, if I were to pick this property, you would say in section 15, Heartland Township, range 8, meridian 2 north, and then you would start to describe that property. So these sections, they go way beyond planning, assessing, they're for engineering, for surveying, and it was how essentially the land was laid out in the western part of the United States. The whole country has done this thing, other than the eastern coast, really. So, and California, they're a little different out there. So,
It is interesting though, because I'm looking at this more intently, is where Lone Tree travels east-west across Pleasant Valley Road to Maxfield. That road actually turns into a private road. It's not, so I don't know if it keeps that name. I don't know if Lone Tree Road belongs right there, or if that name should be shifted over by Maxfield.
so here it is Lone Tree, here it is Lone Tree Road. Is that what you're talking about?
So that, I don't think, you can tell me, is that a public road? Going west of Pleasant Valley?
I can't. The surveyors, our engineers supposedly are identifying public roads, so there must be some sort of it as public road. I couldn't comment on it.
Shouldn't bring it up.
Okay. Any other comments on the map? Got enough opinions?
Yeah,
But
I do.
I do have a comment, just this came up, I think, when a resident was discussing in the call to the public or the open meeting for Redwood 2, that they were unaware that something had been changed to zoning to PD, or was that Redwood 2?
Yep.
There was someone who was very disappointed that the maps didn't reflect current reality. And if somebody had asked me, I would assume, being that I know a few things about desktop publishing, that it would take about 5 seconds to change the color of a square in a map like this, but I realize it may not be that simple administratively, that maybe there's, maybe all these maps have to be approved every time there's a change, but I was surprised to find out that we would have maps that were inaccurate, and I could see where that would be disappointing for someone to move into a place, looking at the future use, looking at the current, and thinking, oh, this is eventually going to be whatever, and then shocked that 2 years later it's going to be something entirely different because of something that was passed even before they moved in. So I just wondered if there was something where there wouldn't be something put on the map which clearly says these are accurate as of this date or something, so that people realize that this, because you look at this map and you don't know that it's, there's no date on it, right? Is there a
Yep,
date?
there's a date.
Oh, there
Here's
is.
the date
Okay.
right there. So one of the problems.
Almost a disclaimer, like that would say, please see current, which there really is no current map.
There is no, it's always in flux. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the problems I've stumbled into on this is this clear zoning here. That does not exist on the new ones. We're going in this direction. So Clear Zoning is a company, and they own the rights to that map. I can't modify
Copyright.
that. I have to work with them to do it. And it is very cumbersome to deal with them. And you have to, they not only want the changes in zoning, they want you to give them the newspaper ads that it was published in, when you did the noticing, when the public hearing was held, the minutes of that meeting, when it went to the board, the resolution that the board had, and those minutes.
They
And
want
then
to
if-
charge you a couple $1,000 or something. Probably.
Yes, and they're very expensive. And then
Right.
they're not using as updated of a GIS map, and they have that same issue with the tilt. And we have several properties that have split zoning on them. For example, Heartland Glen, and it had, some of it was PD and some of it is green. They were struggling with how to do that and it very slow, very cumbersome. Nope, you didn't send us the resolution from the board meeting on this date, and we have to go back and get that. So that's kind of helped just to have Spalding to Decker come in and say, well, I think they have to start from scratch, so it's been a much quicker process.
So still, if I looked at something that had a date on it, I would still assume that if that's currently available map on the website, I would assume that nothing has changed. That that's just, they made it on that date, nothing's changed. I mean, it'd just be a natural, that's why I wish there was something a little more,
Minute by minute.
a little more
that it was-
powerful.
That wasn't 13
No.
years old.
Yeah, well, no, it seems like that's not.
No, it's a legit question, because I've had that concern for years.
I just think that there should be something more, where if you put the date on the map, there should be something also very bold that says, may not reflect current zoning map. Or something to the effect of, this map may have changed by township,
Could you say may have been updated since the date as shown?
something like that,
Yeah.
right, yeah. So just something, and they may even have experience with this, maybe they know what they could put down, but just so we kind of have something to go back on. When somebody comes to us and says, what are you're gonna rezone, you're gonna let this thing come in here? Well, I didn't even know it was gonna be zoned that, And we can say, well, the map clearly says that it's current
Yeah.
only of this date or something that effect.
Sure, I can look to see to do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that.
So some of the drawings that I look at is the latest revision, or previous revision date. I mean, you don't want to add so much data to it that no one's going to look at it, but it could be to refer back to the last time it was revised.
Yeah,
Have to see what
You have to
zoning
be
has.
careful, because you don't want them to think that's the last time the map was revised. They say, okay, so it was revised in 2021, it hasn't changed since. The point is, it's not that this is a revision on this data. We want to almost say this may not be accurate. This may not be accurate by today's
Yep.
reality. Whether you're a lawyer, I'm sure you'll come up with a word.
Yeah, I'll talk with
Or six.
them, so. Any other comments on any of these?
Scroll
Okay.
up. Can you scroll up just a little bit?
All right, so let us look for any comments from the planning commission. Anything? Anybody?
Yeah, again, this is not formal, so contact me at any
I
time.
moved on.
Oh.
You're done. I'm just kidding.
I like the cricket one.
You do? So it's, what is it, a
No.
6-1
If you
vote?
if you do have any comments or questions, you can give Troy a call. So, motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Support.
Mitchell, McMullen, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay, motion carries. Thank you.
We had this at our desk, something about the ordinance, the chickens.
The chicken.
Were we supposed to talk about that?